It's Clint from the Doorway 2, hanging out with James. And I think I just learned how to say the band's name is Amiensus, right?
Yes, Amiensus.
All right. See, I did all right. I did all right. Um, anyway, this is James. Interesting fact is I interviewed James's cohort, Jeff, a few months back from your Chrome Waves side, but I was doing it for his side project, not for Chrome Waves. So
For Deeper Graves?
you got it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a blast. So we all kind of have a common friend in Neil Jameson from Krieg.
Yeah.
Neil was on my very first record. I stayed with him for a month while we recorded. We were buddies for about 10 years. So like there's kind of this weird kind of symbiosis we got going on right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so your record came out in October, the new one. And I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about. I'm gonna go off of Chrome Waves because I love Chrome Waves, and I feel like there's a very similarity in vibe on the records. There's a lot of that kind of ethereal, spacey, shoegazing, gothy kind of overtones on everything you do as well with this project, and I kind of wanted to see how you differ the two, like how do you write Chrome Wave songs? How do you write songs for this? Because at certain points in times, I'm going to talk about a couple of my favorite songs later on, but I almost feel like they could almost interlap sometimes in certain places and certain parts.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a good place to start. So this current Chrome Waves record came out a week before Amiensus record, and I really right the week before the whole coronavirus pandemic started, and I had been watching it already because I had a friend whose stepmom was from China, and he warned me before a D&D game in January that something was going on in China, because his stepmom was like, "Hey, we're coming back to the United States right now," and yeah. So anyway, the week before I went down to Jeff's place in Indianapolis, and I live in Rochester, Minnesota, so I'm like a good 8 hours away from Jeff and Dustin. I had started already watching the counter of cases, and I went down and I tracked the songs that we had for the Chrome Waves record, and honestly, so that album being 6 songs was kind of split, like 3 songs that I mainly wrote and 3 songs that Jeff mainly wrote. And that's how we kind of have been going about like writing for the most part, is like we try to combine our ideas and like songs into like 6 tracks generally, because we usually have close to 40-50 minutes. And I know we're talking about Amiensus, but this all ties in.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
So there were a couple of tracks. Now, one of them is not, but there were a couple of tracks that I had kind of written in mind for Amiensus originally, and I had kind of written them late in Amiensus demoing into this album period, which is kind of weird to say because like I wrote a lot of guitar on this album, and I haven't really written a whole lot of guitar in Amiensus since the first record, Restoration.
Okay.
So I mean, with the exception of like the splits, I wrote quite a bit of the split guitar work with Oak Pantheon, but yeah. So there was like 2 of those songs that ended up being Chrome Wave songs. I'm not gonna give away which ones they were, but you'll be able to tell if you follow my other projects anyway. I did some like different versions of it of other songs that were on the Chrome Waves record that will come out soon. So, but anyway, yeah, I definitely had some songs that were what I would consider Amiensus rejects, and then I was like, "Hey Jeff, like, what do you think about this demo? Like, it's not going to get used." So they ended up on the Chrome Waves record, and to some degree, going into the last Chrome Waves record, and I think when you talked to Jeff, actually, I was with him, but we were in the studio tracking our 3rd record in September, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I was there, and we were tracking our 3rd record already, because what else do you do during a pandemic when you have all your tours canceled but like just go ahead and start tracking again.
Right.
So that's where we were at. But yeah, so I mean, there has been some overlap with like demos and stuff that I've pitched with one band, and then like it's not gotten approved and or gone further because it's just like, are the band members feeling it?
Yeah.
So, and if they're not, that's totally okay. Like I have enough projects that I'm like, well, hey, if they don't like it, maybe I'll just pitch it to somebody else and see if they enjoy it. And so yes, yeah, that is where some of that crossover with Chrome Waves and Amiensus happens.
Good. Well, then I wasn't nuts because I could definitely feel it, and it sounded like there was some really cohesiveness there. So I'm gonna use some really awesome terms on the style of music that I hear when I'm listening to the new record, and you tell me if I'm fucking insane, if it's right, if it sounds like in the right direction. I just can tell you what I feel. So I'm
You're
gonna use
probably not insane. It's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that. But anyway, so I'm gonna say the terms I'm gonna use are indie rock. I'm gonna use prog. I'm gonna use folk. I am going to use the word shoegaze, and I'm gonna use the word black death. These are the feelings I get from listening throughout the record. There's even a little bit of Viking elements in there, but I think the folk kind of overlays the more Viking elements.
I can almost tell which songs you're talking about based on what words you chose to say. So yeah, it's all good. I think that's totally accurate too.
Cool. So we're gonna dissect a couple songs that I really love on that term, and then you can kind of tell me a little bit about it.
All
So
right.
the very first one, which is my absolute favorite track on the new record, is track two, which is Divinity.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love the folk elements that almost are kind of a Viking folk vibe, and then it goes into ethereal black metal. I don't know if that's like a really good term or not. The clean vocals are so goddamn powerful on that song that I think it's just a breath of fresh air throughout everything else. So I just kind of wanted to get a thought process on that song from a band member.
Sure. So Divinity is one of my songs on the record. And I kind of realized that I almost ripped my own song off the other night when I was just kind of jamming. I have my 12 string, which is the acoustic on that right here.
Okay.
Uh, this little Martin right here. And I actually bought it like 2 years ago or 3 years ago in March here coming up in 2021. With two of the other members, we went to a guitar shop in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is about an hour away from me, and probably our biggest like, and best local shop.
Sure.
I have to drive up to Minneapolis, which is like an hour and 15, hour and 30 minutes to go to like a major music store of any type. But La Crosse is quicker, and Dave's guitar shop in La Crosse has like the most amazing selection of like high-end guitars. Like they basically carry like Gibson, Fender, PRS,
Gotcha.
and like Ibanez,
Yeah.
and then they also carry like Taylor and Martin
Yeah.
majorly for acoustic and stuff. So I ended up getting that. It was like a return, and that's how Divinity came to be. Essentially, is like I bought a 12-string acoustic that I wanted for like 15 years. Um, and yeah, I ripped off this song Arise kind of with the chord progressions. Not necessarily how they're played, but the chord progressions I ripped off Arise, which was from our first split in 2013 with Oak Pantheon Gathering 1. And just kind of played the chords differently, like picked a pattern and different tempo and stuff too. But yeah, Divinity is the song we didn't use for a single that I was expecting the whole time to end up being the popular song. And I say that because I agree with you. The clean vocals are like more powerful, and it's a little bit more accessible. And Become the Fear off our first record has always been our most popular song,
Mhm.
and it still kind of had that folk and black metal vibe at the same time.
Cool.
Um, So we had a special guest on that record. Actually, we had two special guests, but one of them's a former band member, so I don't count it as a special guest. He's just a guest who
Yeah.
used to be in the band. Joe Waller, who wrote "Become the Fear," actually, that's his song, and he was on our first two LPs. He added the actual distorted guitar in that song, and I played the acoustic and the clean guitar in that song. And then we had Cacophonics, who is Chris Brown IRL, and he did the cello on that song. So a lot of people think it's violin because he's kind of playing high registers on a cello, but it's cello. Yeah, that song, exactly how you explained it, I guess it evolved over time. Essentially, it started off with just the harsh vocals during the verses and then the clean choruses. And when I was going to re-record the clean vocal choruses back in like August of 2019, I added the verses, and most of those are one of them is my regular voice, and the other two are falsetto. And I never used falsetto except for very, very shortly in the last record, Ascension. And so I gave it a shot, and honestly, I kind of tried to sneak it into the whole song and not tell the rest of the band until it was mixed. And they were all like, wow, that sounds really good. Like, this is really like kind of magical. And I was just like, oh, hell yeah. Like, I did it. I finally snuck something into a song that everybody actually liked and didn't immediately shoot down.
Nice.
So they were super cool about it. And yeah, Antoine Dufour mixed and mastered this whole record, but he really, really nailed every song that had the acoustic and the cello in it. His EQ on everything, like immediately, even though we went through a few rounds of mixes for most of the songs, like the first time we got Divinity back, we were all just like, holy shit, this is a record. Like, it was only the second song, and we were like, wow,
yeah,
this is it.
Yeah, it gives me chills, that song. I'm just telling you, like that one, like it it's the reason why I wanted to interview. Okay, I'm just gonna like
hell yeah.
Like that was the song that was like, okay, I gotta talk to these guys. I don't care, it's gotta happen. But yeah, cool, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I got two more songs. There's two more songs I want to talk about. The next one is gonna be it's a Convocation of Spirits, which is track 4.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about that one because that is the polar fucking opposite of Divinity, in my opinion. Like, it literally, where there's hopefulness in Divinity, in this track, there is absolute negativity. Like, I almost can feel like the absence of joy, but in a very good, powerful way. So, kind of talk to me about that song.
Sure. I don't think I've talked about this song in any interview before, but I wrote the lyrics to this. Like, we had kind of finished the demo, and it was pretty close to where you hear it right now, because we actually, like 2 years ago, posted like a 30-second clip of this song on Facebook, just to say, like, it was the end of 2018. We're like, hey, we haven't put out a record yet. We're sorry. Here's a clip. And I always felt bad about that. Trust me. But yeah, I had written these vocals like probably less than a week after I had finished the Chrome Waves record that I first played on, which was A Grief Observed. And A Grief Observed's title comes from a C.S. Lewis book. And I read A Grief Observed probably 10 years ago, and then probably again about 5 years ago. And to sum it up, C.S. Lewis married kind of late in life, and not to speculate on his sexuality or anything, but his wife passed away pretty shortly after they were married of a terminal disease, and he wrote basically about that. Of course, he's known for the Narnia series, but he wrote tons of other books, and A Grief Observed was just a really deep look into C.S. Lewis, and him losing his best friend at the time. So I had quite a few like familial deaths around the time that we wrote Grief Observed, both between my family and my wife's family. Mostly grandparents, which I don't have any grandparents at this point. And yeah, that was kind of the theme of it. So I told my wife once that it was about her, and she cried for like 2 days straight. So that was the truth of it. But yeah, it was kind of about that. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it's a powerful emotional track. That's why I'm glad that I feel it and hear it and it's in the right direction. Cool.
that's yeah. So that's I mean that's definitely it was a very emotional track in that manner. So um, I mean I can look at it today and like listen to it, and I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna cry over
Yeah.
that song by any means. But yeah, it was definitely written when I was like focused on a very specific topic.
Mm.
And it kind of played off of the first Chrome Waves record that I was on with A Grief Observed, and followed in that footsteps lyrically. And yeah, there's another song on the record that actually has very similar lyrics as well, which is the third track, which is also very similar to a Chrome Waves track too, because I was writing at the same time and doing vocals for both albums. So, but yeah, in any case, that's pretty much
Nice.
the story and the up and down of that one. At the same time, it's like kind of got a little bit of hope to it, I will say, at least. Um, Towards the end, I guess I would say, of the song.
Okay. I got you.
So yeah, I mean it's kind of like a introspective dark but also positive. Like
Got
I know it ends with a "Can you still hear me from the other side?" That's
you.
the lyrics at the end. Um, but they're meant to kind of be positive
Yeah. Okay.
still. I
Cool.
There was one comment on our Bandcamp. I don't know if you ever look at like Bandcamps when people purchase things, they can leave a comment.
Yep.
And a lot of the time with like bands that I do, because I do love Bandcamp, and I've been using it for a long time to purchase music myself.
Sure.
And like a lot of the time I'll just leave really silly comments. And in fact, one of my friends who draws art, Steven Wilson, he's drawn a lot of stuff for Amiensus and Not and all
Okay.
of all kinds of projects. He messaged me today and was like commenting on I commented on Narrowhead, which is like a grunge band. And it was like, if you enjoyed this album, or if you enjoy this album, you will no, sorry, it was if you enjoyed 2009's breakout artist Miley Cyrus's Party in the USA, you will not enjoy this album. So I leave stupid comments, but somebody commented on a reaction on our Bandcamp and said, like, a convocation of spirits reminds me of the time I lost my daughter. And I was just like, oh.
Oh man.
I was like, man, I don't I don't even know what words to say to this human being. And I'm a counselor. Like I deal with this every day. This is my job. Um, it hit me pretty good. I was like, I took a screenshot of it and sent it to my wife, and I was just like, I don't imagine that like music reaches people like this. But like, then to me, like, you can't see around my office per se, but like my office is just filled with like bands I love.
Yeah.
Like I'm a music collector. I'm a vinyl collector. I look up to tons of artists in the scene, previously or still today, that they're active and stuff. And like, yeah, I guess I'm trying to emulate them to some degree.
Cool. So I'll give you the reason why that song's so special to me. So in 2015, my mom died of COPD,
Mm.
and 6 days later, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. So it kind of, and I went through chemo and radiation for 18 weeks, and that was so 2015 was this really really dark period, and I almost feel like I'm reliving it again in 2020, just in a completely different way, where everything's being shut down. Can't hang out with my friends. I can't get to Florida to record my new record, like, because that's where my band partner is. He's in Tampa, so every time we try and get there, Tampa's shut down, and it kind of gave me that same vibe of like, all right, you know what? There's darkness, but there's always hope at the end of the tunnel too, and that's kind of like I said, like it's you need music like that every once in a while to just make you feel like, okay, you know what? It's not just you, it's everybody else in the world too. So
Hmm.
like, and that's kind of the way that song kind of related to me. So thanks for the personal side of it. That really means a lot to me. So
Yeah, hey, that's essentially what I'm going for when I write. So I'm glad we connected and we're able to really relate on that. So
Cool.
damn,
Yeah.
man.
No, it's all good. But no, you know what? That's what we need, music like that. So the last song
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about is track 7, which is what Cold Viscera. Uh,
Yes.
all right. The reason why I love this song so much is completely just personal to me because it reminds me of a song that Dissection should have wrote before Dissection died. All right. Uh, just because like John would have that sounds like a Dissection song to me. It just reminds me of all the brilliantness that John had in the world and everything he was giving and the last brilliant record that he made that most people fucking hate and I absolutely love. Okay? Like that's just like I just want to thank you for that because nobody in this world has done a really good interpretation of Dissection for me in about 5 years, and that song does that. So talk to me a little bit about that song, why it was created, how it was created, like things like that.
So we actually had one of me and Alex, that's the wrong way to say it, one of Alec and I's songs, I think, that we kind of tossed out last minute because we had a new guitar player who joined the band, like officially at the beginning of 2018.
Okay.
And so we were we were pretty set on which songs we were going to retrack at that point, but kind of had to like finalize the songs themselves. And then I'm trying to think. I think it was like August, October of last year. So about a year ago, um, we like kind of tossed out two songs, and those songs were replaced by Cold Viscera and All That Is Unknown. And Cold Viscera was written by our new guitar player who had just joined the band in 2018. And yeah, I mean, he's actually a fantastic acoustic guitar player with a degree in classical
Nice.
guitar, a bachelor's degree in classical guitar from Milwaukee, University of Milwaukee. And so he ended up, I will say, he ended up retracking right here, like literally where I'm sitting right now in my office, retracking almost all of the acoustic on the album. Even though I had already recorded it and written it, I was just like, "Hey, dude, you play way cleaner than me. I'm not a guitar player. I just can write guitar." So, but anyway, he wrote Cold Viscera with Alec, the other live guitar player, and the first time I heard it, I was just like, "What are we, Amon Amarth?" Honestly, that was my first thought. I was like, "Holy shit, Ramon Amarth!" Um, just because of one of the leads in it, the but yeah, that was a fantastic time. We retracked it right here, sitting in my office, and we actually tracked acoustic to the whole song, and then ended up deleting all but like the first riff on acoustic when we went to send it to to Antoine to mix and master. But Kelsey has a very awesome like classic death metal style of guitar playing, and we're like, even though we only really started demoing in like July after we had finished the album, Kelsey has already written like 5 or 6 awesome death metal songs that sound like Dissection or Ulcerate.
Cool.
um like he's got that style nailed down, and I don't even understand because like Kelsey's actually a couple years older than me, so he's taken over the head like oldest person in the band. I
Got
used to be the oldest person, and I'll be 30 next year, but Kelsey's older than that, just a couple years older than me. He's like 31. Um, but yeah, or maybe he's 32. Shit, I'm sorry, Kelsey. You have the same birthday as Todd. That's all I can remember. Um, but anyway, yeah, Kelsey's got the death metal thing nailed down, and Alec too. I mean, Alec wrote Iconoclasm. We actually kind of jammed that song sitting or standing right here in my office initially a couple years ago when that song started, and Alec wrote All That Is Unknown. But Kelsey has this like melodic death metal style, and then Alec and I usually rein it in with a little bit more melody from time to time. Cold Viscera though is like my favorite track on the album, even though it's like the rest of the like, so like tracks 1 through 5 were like the songs that I initially wrote, and then the other tracks were mostly the other guys. Cold Viscera is easily my favorite.
Nice.
It's the coolest fucking song. So
I love it. That's why I wanted to talk about it. So awesome.
yeah. I mean, like Alec and I wrote the vocals together for the most part. All but the ending I wrote by myself, but we wrote like most of it together sitting here. And yeah, it was a fun time. And just like looking back, like I pre-mixed all the songs and before I sent all the stems to the mastering or for mixing and mastering and stuff. And like I still like loved mixing that song myself because I was just like, these chugs are so awesome and they're so unlike the rest of the fucking album. Like it was so yeah. I have that's the song I can look back on this album and just like sit in my car after work and just be like yeah. Just like stoked about.
Nice. Yeah, it's the one that gets me going. So that's cool. So I'm gonna mention a couple of bands, and I just want to get your feeling on them because
sure.
We've kind of had this weird bonding moment, which I kind of like. So it's nice so far. Like we are definitely on the same wavelength. So at least that's good. So I'm gonna say you are majorly influenced by a couple of bands, and this is what I'm talking about. All right.
Okay.
All right. So Cat and Tony are one of them. And you may not think so, but you tell me and then I'll rebut.
I like Catatonia. My favorite record by them is their live acoustic DVD.
Yep.
And then I want to say the first record I heard by Catatonia, and only in like the last 5 or 6 years, to be honest. I didn't really know about them till like 2014.
Yep.
Was Brave Murder Day because of our former guitar player.
Okay.
Which was with Michael Ackerfeld. And then is it Dead End Kings is from 2014?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So that's the record that we as a band have jammed on tour pretty repetitively. The one after that was like kind of okay, and I honestly haven't listened to the one this year. But the only one I have on physical is the DVD of the acoustic performance of mostly Dead End King songs, and then a couple other songs.
So Dead End King is the record that I was going to talk about to you the most.
Yeah.
Because you are strongly influenced, in my opinion, by that record. So
yes, I do love. That's a top 10 record for me. So
nice. All right, so 1 for 1. I'm doing all right. Let's keep this going. All right. I don't know if you know them or not. I'm a music nerd too, but Dawn from Sweden. You remind me a lot of them. They put one brilliant Black Death record out, and that I've listened to over and over and over again, and that's it. They literally have not released a record in 20 years now. I mean, but they were on Necropolis Records, if you remember them.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. But you have that melody, that dark, huge Black Death melody, and that's what they had. So like you may have never heard them. Check out Dawn. I'm telling I think it'll be something you love. Send
me a link because that's like for Alec, most of Alec's he's been in the band since like the beginning, except for like a couple of years in the very beginning. Like he wasn't a part of Restoration because we kicked him out right before Restoration, but then he came back between Restoration and Ascension. So he's been a part of the band for like 8 of 10 years. But most of Alec's influences are like 90s to early 2000s melodeath. So and we share a lot of that because Alec and I grew up together from age 13 onwards, so more than half of our lives at this point. So we share a lot of the same influences in that manner. I gravitated towards the more like singing stuff, and then he gravitated towards more of the like death metal stuff. So
Gotcha.
it
Awesome.
worked.
Cool. No, the next band I want to talk about, I'm sure it's going to be controversial to you because it's a bigger band, but it's cool. I don't care. I want to talk about it, and it's Borknagar. Um, and
Oh,
and it's when Simon is singing, not when Vinter
yes.
Sorg is singing. It's when Simon is singing. Because I am going to be the hater right now, and I think Vinter Sorg is great in Vinter Sorg. When he sings in Borknagar, it sounds like shit.
Agreed. Um, so roll back, but one of the first black metal bands I discovered was Arcturus.
Yep.
So I went to Norway in 2008 because in 2005 I discovered um, I'm trying to think. Well, I have the record up here. 1 second. Or I did. Aspera
Yeah.
Hymns Symphonia, the
Yes.
first Arcturus record, which was with Garm.
Yep.
I don't know where that record went. I have the White by Agalloch up here instead. I guess it must be downstairs. But anyway, I bought it in Norway, and after I had already, like 3 years after I discovered it. But then that led me down the Arcturus tunnel, which led to, Simon was singing at the time in 2005. And I bought the Shamirs and Aspera, and I'm trying to think of the last record before the Arcturus record that came out like 2 years ago that he did. But they did the DVD, Shipwrecked in Oslo.
Yep.
And I discovered that through iTunes in like 2005. And then I discovered Dimmu Borgir, and then I discovered Camelot. And that's how like we went from listening to like metalcore to black metal, and discovering like underground black metal from that way. So Arcturus was a huge influence. And when we were pre-Amiensus, we were called The Last, which is why our first EP was called The Last EP.
Okay.
Arcturus was like number one influence on everything we did. We were a 4-piece at the time. We had Aaron, who was on the first couple of records, and he actually sang on a couple of songs on this record and All Past Lead. Like Aaron's an unofficial band member who's been in the band since we started, but doesn't like play live with us or anything.
Sure.
He's the responsible adult who has kids. Not to say I'm not responsible, but I don't have kids.
I got
so, yeah, and the rest of us don't. So, but he's the responsible one, and yeah, we got into Arcturus and we got into Dimmu and stuff at the time, and yeah, so Simon's like a huge influence on us vocally, and the keyboards and stuff. Like, we wanted to sound like Aspera Hymn Symphonia when we first started out.
Nice.
That was like our goal.
Very
to
cool.
be honest. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Yeah. So yeah, you can feel it. And then the last band I'm going to talk about is Enslaved, and I want to be very particular about the Enslaved stuff I'm talking about because it's not the old material. It is very much more the newer proggy meets death material. And the reason why I say that is because I think the prog elements in your band are very Enslaved-esque. So when I listen to them, and it's because you use more of a folky Scandinavian kind of vibe to me when you're doing the proggy kind of playing. So if you could kind of talk a little bit about that as well too, I kind of want to dig a little bit into that. So
Okay. So in terms of Enslaved, I'm trying to think of what records I've like listened to. I'd have to look back. I'm gonna be honest. I've listened to like most of the Enslaved discography, but I'm trying to. So the first record I listened to by Enslaved was Axioma Ethica.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it like I was already like 18 or 19.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Axioma Ethica Odini.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the first one I listened to. So I had to go back and listen to like previous records, and I actually more recently have gone back and listened to their discography. I wasn't a huge fan of, I think it was like Utgard, the one from this year.
Right.
Let me look at 1 sec. Look it up. Enslaved.
The new one is hugely prog. It's almost like it's a total prog record. So
Is it?
yeah, they literally
Utgard. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
yeah they literally have a prog guitarist on the record that they are like guesting on it. So like yeah, it's a very different flavored album. So
yeah, I like the first couple tracks were all like very vocal based and rhythm based, like drum bass and stuff. Okay, so Rune, Vertebrae, and Axioma. I'm looking at their discography on now, and then I can remember Issa pretty well too, because that's one that really introduced and Eld actually really introduced my other guitarist Alec to black metal as well. But Axioma, Ethica Odini, and Vertebrae were like my two huge jams my first year of college, as well as Isan's After.
okay.
It's the one where he started playing with Lepros's background band and the saxophone player from Lepros and stuff.
I love that record. So yeah.
Yeah. So like when Amiensus was beginning and writing Restoration, Vertebrae and Axioma, as well as that Isan record After, was a huge influence. Like we had already before that in like 2008, 2009 experimented with like 7-string guitars for a lot. But we were only playing in like B standard to drop A at the lowest, which is like pretty standard for a 7-string, like either like standard 7-string guitar tuning or you just drop the top string.
Yeah.
And then over time, we've kind of evolved into playing A standard. Okay. And I play a lot of my stuff. So like Divinity, Beneath the Waves, A Convocation of Spirits, Euphorica, and To the Edge of Life were all in Dadgad.
Okay.
Which is DAD-GAD, which is what all of my guitars, all of these bad boys are in. So it's just a big chord.
Yep.
But yeah, so it works perfectly with A standard and a 7-string, which is what our guitars currently play in live, because it's basically D standard but dropped. And we got that idea from Enslaved.
That's a perfect way to sum it up. Awesome.
Yeah, we just got that idea from them. So awesome. Yeah.
Cool. So I kind of want to talk about the record label that you're on. Mm-hmm. Because recently there's another band that just came out that is blowing me away on this record that I'm going to be doing an interview on Tuesday with, ironically enough.
Yeah?
Yeah, which is, I think it's Pulchera Morte is how you say it. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not sure how to say it either, but I know Adam, and I know John. I don't know how to say their band either. Maybe I should ask them.
Yeah, so I'm gonna ask them when I talk to them on Tuesday. But I've talked to many of those members many times because I've done interviews with Wolfhammer. I've done interviews with Skeleton Witch. I've done a lot of Adam and I have talked many times. So, but yeah, so I kind of want to talk about your label because out of nowhere they've been releasing some really like eclectic, interesting music. Beforehand, I didn't pay attention. I'll just be honest. They could have put out brilliant records before that, but in the last year and a half, they've been catching my ear with a lot of things, and 2 of your records being them. So I kind of wanted to ask, how did you hook up with them? Like, it's not a big label, so it's like you would have to either be in the know or know bands on that label, for my opinion, for you to kind of connect. So talk to a little bit how you connected with Transcending records.
For sure. So I knew because they were basically, I knew one of them because they were basically a fan of Amiensus. The 2 main dudes that run Transcending are Chase and Mike, and Chase and I had just kind of talked over Facebook, and Chase is a couple of years younger than me. like I said, I'm only 29, but Chase is a little bit younger than me. Mike is a little bit older than me, and Transcending is Mike's label, and Chase helps out a lot.
Gotcha.
But I talked to Chase in 2017, 2018 about releasing my, which, you know, I have a bunch, which is not to say I'm good or anything. I have too many bands. They released my band Fail to Decay's record Delve in 2018, October of 2018, actually. And then they kind of went through a really rough period where they were like kind of shut down for a minute. And then they jumped back into it at the beginning of 2020. And Amiensus had been dropped by our label at the time, the Artisan Era. And to be honest, it was like 90% our fault that we just like didn't meet their deadlines for introducing the record. And we were like, yeah, we're not done yet. Like we were pretty communicative, and like I'm not hard to get a hold of at all. If any fans watch this and they're like, oh, I can never get a hold of James, they're like they're lying as, you know, out there. They're fucking liars, because like I respond to emails like usually within like minutes, and Instagram and Facebook like within hours, like same day. Like I'm always involved. But yeah, they dropped us because we basically couldn't meet the deadlines / they just didn't like the record. We presented like 4 tracks to them that were mixed, and they were like, nah, we're good. And then for like a few months, when I started getting shit together at the beginning of this year, and finished, I was like, fuck this, I'm just gonna release this myself. And then we released our first like instrumental track, which is the 10th track, the bonus track of a complication. And Transcending hit us up and we're like, hey, you don't have a label for real? And we were like, nah, we did the last record without a label. It went really well. And they were like, well, we can do a vinyl. And I was like, yes, because I can't afford that. I absolutely can't afford that. So I knew them, and they had their shit together. And then on top of that, they were working with Earsplit PR, who I've worked with Chrome Waves and stuff. And I love David and Liz, and they're awesome people. And so I was like, you know what? That sounds perfect. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And they were just like, I mean, it's like family. Like I talk to those dudes every week. So we talk about music we like. We talk about other bands on the roster and stuff. One of my other bands that is brand new and hasn't been like kind of announced yet is going to announce signing with Transcending this week. And it's not metal. It's like a grunge shoegaze mix.
Nice.
It's like take Chrome Waves, but like take out all the screaming in Chrome Waves and metal parts, and it's like that kind of.
Very cool. Nice. Yeah, I can't wait to hear. Yeah, they seem like a super cool label. So that's why I was at. Yeah, just from the music that they're releasing, it's by people that aren't dicks. I don't know. Like that's the best way. Like,
yeah. For real. No, for real. That's the best way to put it. Like they're so down to earth. It's amazing.
Yeah. Cool. No, awesome. And congratulations, because I hope the record, even though it's only been out a month, is doing really well, because it's a great album. I definitely want to tell you that. So the last thing I kind of really want to talk about is the artwork on the record. It's really abstract. It's kind of, I feel like you interpret what you want from it more than anything. So as I'm much like you. Okay, I'm 48. I'm older. So I love going to record stores. I love like I picking up CDs, vinyl. I mean, even back to the old days. My first death metal releases were all tape releases. Like I literally went and bought, like we're talking about the late 80s, early 90s, and that's kind of that's my world. I've been a musician for 35 years. I put out 20 records myself, signed to a whole bunch of different record labels, some just like you, like just recently, I'm working with Aesthetic Death in the UK again. So like they released a noise record, like a noise industrial doom record for me in 2009. And Stu and I have been friends ever since. I've sent him stuff and things just didn't work. And then all of a sudden he's like, I love this new record, man. This collab you're doing with this guy from Israel. And he's like, why don't we put this one out? Sure. Like never burn your
Nice.
bridges because you never know if you're ever going to work with somebody again, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the vibe I get from this record. Like I look at it like I so am looking forward to getting a vinyl copy of this because like literally yeah, see like literally
I got shipped them this today. I
yeah,
have the shipping. I have the UPS or USPS shipping tracking sent to me like 6 hours ago from
nice.
Transcending. They shipped their copies already, but like I'm getting my copies. So the ones that got ordered from our Bandcamp, I will be packaging probably in the middle of
Nice.
next week. So
Awesome.
I'm stoked on that.
Awesome. Yeah, so I kind of want to talk about that because
Yeah.
like music like this matters to me. Like I love to look at albums. I love to open them up. I love to read liner notes. I love to kind of feel like I'm an extension of the band when I'm listening to the record.
Yeah.
Because if not, there's just like you need connection. So talk to me about how important vinyl and like the actual physical record is to you versus a digital. I'm the same guy. I buy tons of Bandcamp. I have tons of streaming accounts where I literally listen to records because I pay monthly and they get paid as well too. And I just like to be able to make sure that happens. But talk to me a little bit on physical records versus digital. Like, what's your thoughts? What's your world on that?
So I collect a lot of the important, like the really important albums to me on physical copies. Like three CD versions of Agaloc's The White EP and 4 vinyl variants, but 6 total copies of The White by Agalock on vinyl.
Okay. Okay.
I'll put it that way. And since we were talking about art, I'll show you really quickly. But like the cover, and you'll see the CD right here. The cover right here is a pour painting.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the CD. Here's The White by Agalock. CD and the front cover, and then there's the back cover. If you can see that, I'm not sure.
Yep.
I think okay. So they're pour paintings that I actually did with my sister-in-law, who guest vocaled on a couple of the tracks on the album, the first track and the sixth track. So we did those pour paintings a couple of years ago, and those were just immediately like, that's the album.
Got you.
And then the inside of the CD and the vinyl is actually photos we took in 2018 in British Columbia.
Okay.
We had shows in Vancouver and Kelowna, and we were like an hour outside of Kelowna, and we broke down. Not entirely. We were able to make it into Kelowna to play the last show, but we blew a spark plug out of the head. It like kind of almost completely stripped it. And we made it. We drove into Kelowna, played the show, and the next morning we went, and they were like, "Hey, we got to rebuild the head." And we were like, "Oh, well, we live in the bus. What do we do?" We're like in a different country, like 28 hours driving distance from Minnesota. And then like half the band lives in Green Bay at the time. Now only one guy lives in Green Bay. Everybody else lives in Minnesota now.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, at the time, that's what happened. So the photos inside of the vinyl and the CD are from our trip in Kelowna when we were just kind of stuck and wandering the streets of Kelowna, British Columbia for a week. Beautiful town, amazing. Would not complain whatsoever. It was the end of September of 2018. We were having a blast. We were broke as shit, but it was cool because we had to we had to pay for the bus to be repaired, but it was a blast, and we just decided to use something very personal to us this time instead of going out and having an artist do it. But when it comes to like vinyl versus CD and stuff, like I'm less apt to buy CDs anymore just because like recently, like last year, I bought a newish vehicle, and it doesn't have a CD player. It's only Bluetooth. But vinyl to me is like in my basement where we practice and stuff, like packaging our merch and stuff, like I throw vinyl on.
Yeah. Cool.
And so I have a pretty big vinyl collection at this point, and it's just the feeling you get from playing that vinyl, like the difference in sound quality. Like while the sound quality is good, it's still got a different like archaic feeling, and particularly for certain types of music, it's even better.
Yes.
Like I'm not huge into collecting death metal, but I'm huge into collecting like folkier black metal or classic rock. Like I have a huge Wham collection.
That's awesome.
I have a great Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin collection. My wife loves Robert Plant and Alison Krauss, the bluegrass and country singer.
Absolutely.
We have Alison Krauss. We have some acoustic guitar players. Like we especially have some Antoine Dufour.
Okay.
We gear towards a lot of the like more 70s like rock or acoustic music, stuff that just was like meant to be recorded or was recorded specifically for vinyl at the time. John Denver.
Yeah, it's the warmth. It's the human tone. So as a little kid, my dad was a huge music fan and big into like jazz and big into like doo-wop and stuff like that, and like 50s and 60s. So I agree, like jazz records, for instance, they sound so much better on vinyl than on any format, or like a cappella music, like just vocal music. Yeah, like it just sounds like, and I'm with you. Like I'm in the same kind of vibe with you. Acoustic
I'm
guitar.
a sucker for some Boys to Men.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, but yeah, but that sounds so good on vinyl because you just it doesn't sound like anything else when you put it on, put it on wax. But awesome. I have one last question that I ask everybody, and I get really interesting comments always. So I'm just gonna go for it. Here we go. So if you could have anybody cover one of your songs but make it their own, who would it be and why?
Ooh, that sucks. That's great. That is a great question. I've never been asked. So, props, man. That's a great question. I feel like I'm on Hot Ones. Which, by the way, I have tons of hot sauce. That's what I do in my free time. Jeff and Chrome Waves and I, we just love hot sauces. So we make hot sauce all summer.
You live in the frozen tundra. Of course, you're gonna eat hot sauce. Come on, man.
For real. Like I grow Reapers and I didn't grow jalapenos this year, but my friend did, so I had a lot of those. But habaneros, ghost peppers, I grew all of that.
I'm in Phoenix. I get it, man. Trust me. Like, we live on that shit. Okay,
dude. Phoenix is awesome. I'm sorry it's so hot, but like it's a cool city between September and January. Like, which is the opposite of where I live. So, okay. So, shit, that's hard. I'll just start by naming my top 3 bands of all time. In terms of not just influence, but just like listenability. Like I don't listen to these bands all the time.
Sure.
But these 3 bands are my top 3 favorites. Would be Led Zeppelin, Under Oath, and Agalloch. And that's just me. In terms of Amiensus goes, but like I have a certain amount of sway because I write 90% of the vocals.
Sure.
If I had to have any band cover an Amiensus song, all right, I'm trying to not make this just like, one of my favorite bands.
I don't care.
Who's doing like a really fucking awesome job nowadays? I don't know. I listen to a lot of shit lately, and it's not metal. This year has been like a really unmetal year for me, and I kind of like verb back and forth because I do keep up with like major black metal playlists and stuff because I want to check them out. And like a couple of years ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said like the Ruins of Everest, like they had like the best album of the year. But this year, I'm like, Tricot, that Japanese mathcore band, like, or I really like Red Velvet, the K-pop band.
I know exactly who they are. Yeah,
Like, that's where I'm at right now. But
that's cool.
if I had to have a band cover us, one of my favorite bands for the last decade that plays pretty similar stuff across their discography, but like has the ability to probably do anything, is this band on Candy Rat Records, which is Antoine Dufour's label, called The Reign of Kindo.
Okay.
And they toured with Scale the Summit
Oh wow.
for a couple. Yeah, so like they've toured with like some like instrumental metal bands, but they're not that way at all. Like they're like a 9-piece. Like they have like horns,
Oh
keyboard players, hand drums, and they play kind of like a like new jazz.
oh wow.
So the Reign of Kindo, they fucking kill it. I would love to hear the Reign of Kindo play an Amiensus song.
There we
And
go.
specifically, I'd probably throw out there. I'll pick a couple, or I'll pick one from every major record. So I'd pick Divinity, for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
from A Reaction. I would probably pick. I'd probably pick The River from All Paths Lead to Death. I would pick Towards the Horizon from Ascension, and I would pick I Am from Restoration,
Okay.
our first record.
Cool. Um, so again, it's been an absolute goddamn pleasure for the last hour hanging out and talking. I'm glad we got to do it.
For
Um,
sure.
I want to kind of, I'm gonna leave links to your Bandcamp, to your Facebook pages, so everybody can, as I say, my hundreds, if maybe thousands of watchers that will be able to hook up and see what's going on. But I'm gonna let you close it like I do with every artist. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever you feel. If you want to talk about your band, that's fine. It doesn't even have to be music related. You just got the next couple minutes. It's all yours.
For sure. Well, this is James from Amiensus. We put out a record on October 2nd through Transcending Records called A Reaction, and it's our third full-length record, though we do have kind of 4 major releases. If you have listened to us before, then you'll see that A Reaction is kind of an amalgamation of all records previously. We include the death metal, we include the black metal, we include the prog, we include the indie rock, we include the grunge, and we include the shoegaze in this record. It's kind of, like I said, an amalgamation of all of our records. Going forward, we have plenty of music already recorded and written and demoed for the next record, but it's been 5 years since our last full-length record, technically, that we released about an hour of music in the 5 years between then. So if you enjoy the music that I write with Amiensus, please check out Chrome Waves. Chrome Waves features Abigail Williams, Nocmistium, Wolfhammer, and Skeleton Witch members. And we are kind of a mix of the shoegaze and rock elements that included in Amiensus, as well as myself on vocals. If you like the more black metal side of Amiensus, check out my solo records, Not, N-O-T-T. And in the near future, I will have a rock record coming out under the name of Comatose, which is featuring my members in the band Fail to Decay. We wrote a record and recorded it in June this year, which is coming out in January of 2021, called A Way Back. It's a kind of a grunge and shoegaze record, kind of similar to Chrome Waves, kind of similar to the first song off of A Reaction. And yeah, please wear a mask. And if you can get the vaccination and take the time off in the near future, please do so, because we would love to get back to playing in 2021. But if you can't, I'll probably drop like 3 more records.
Hey, amen to that. I missed live shows more than you can possibly know.
I have
And
so much fear.
yeah, and if you do ever come to the Phoenix area, I will be there. We will hang out. I absolutely promise. It's like I said, it's been an absolute blast, man.
I have it already in May. It's been booked for a year. I fucking hope I can do that. I have like 3 months of PTO at this point I can take, because I didn't do
Nice.
anything for the last year and a half.
Nice.
So ready.
Awesome. And I am just going to second James's reference on Chrome Waves because that is clearly one of my albums of the year right now. And literally, sir, I listen to it every single day.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, that's how much I like it. And I talked to Jeff and let him know that as well too. Like you guys just make one of the most interesting. I call it shoegazing post punk
you
because that's kind of like what it reminds me of the most. But yeah, if
you
you
will
like,
like the next record. I'll tell you that. I already
awesome.
know. Yeah.
Cool, cool. I hope we get to talk again on your other projects, and I'm sure we will. Again, this is Clint from the Doorway too. James, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Cheers, man. Thank you.